Hi guys, this is Patricia. Today I'm going to talk about some lessons that African countries can draw or extract from Latin America's development strategies and policies. So guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So, as we all know, that the idea that a successful model for development in one country could sensibly become a blueprint for another is now totally unfashionable. But important lessons can still be learned by examining other nations' development paths. Like as you all know, high growth in Africa and the changes in the global economic landscape have contributed to redefine development policies and open new spaces for debating the role of industrial policies in promoting structural transformation and development. So, the Latin American experience in industrial and development policies offer lessons that could help the policy making and economic development in Africa if adapted to the specificities and varieties of its different countries. After the years of austerity in the 1980s and 90s, during which income poverty levels increased or stagnated, sustained growth in the past decade accompanied significant poverty reduction. Latin American countries are emerging from the global financial meltdown in good shape, in part because of their apparent familiarity with the rules of counter-cyclical spending, which depends on storing up money in the good times, and in part because the financial sector is less liberalized than in the West. The region as a whole grew at 6.1% in 2010, prompting Luis Alberto Moreno, the president of the Inter-American Development Bank, to predict that the 2010s will be the Latin American decade. This, however, should be a lesson to the Africans in that the African production structure is still weak, with few domestic companies operating at the technological frontier and with the majority in firms lagging behind in terms of productivity and innovative capabilities. Diversification and upgrading are in fact often confined to islands of excellence within the countries of the region, hence a need to extract the rule of counter cycle from Latin Americans. This is according to Amsden 1989, Word 1990, Chang 1994. Latin American countries are recognizing the importance of strengthening their production and innovation capacities. Despite the still prevailing suspicion about the risk of failure of industrial policy, the wind is changing. The new context and the increased availability of information about country strategies are showing that a great deal of state intervention is needed to back up private sector dynamics and to boost development. In the last decade, several emerging and developing economies re-engaged in active industrial policies in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Latin America looks today like a region in motion that is increasingly acknowledging the relevance of science, technology, and innovation for development, and that is, in different ways, trying to foster production, transformation, and upgrading through different channels. Subsequently, in order for development to take place in Africa, there is a need of drawing a lesson of rehabilitating the planning function in governments from Latin America. Brazil is the country that more openly speaks about its industrial policy. However, most Latin American countries have reinforced in the last decade government actions to strengthen domestic entrepreneurial activities and to promote a better inclusion in global value chains by promoting new forms of FDI and by increasing support to science and innovation. Likewise, achieving structural transformation in Latin American countries means overcoming several barriers like low skills, poor infrastructure, low demand, and scant financing, for example. Critics often argue that getting all those conditions right is a luxury that most African countries cannot afford. But clarifying the objectives of structural transformation helps in revealing the barriers in creating a demand for articulating the necessary actions. Hence, the reason why African countries should draw some of the lessons from Latin America. Particularly, Latin America found an appropriate source of finance and tailored the financing schemes to the need of the beneficiaries. This, therefore, is a lesson to Africa in line with its development. Development banks are proving to be powerful allies in channeling financial resources to production, development, and innovations. These institutions need to introduce innovations in their management and operational routines to be able to foster innovation and operate in a fast changing environment. For example, in Brazil, the National Development Bank is a key actor in the design and implementation of the National Industrial and Innovation Policy. The bank had introduced new procedures to evaluate intangibles to be more capable of screening projects with higher innovation potential, and it has introduced new tools for targeting the different demands. For example, a key challenge for Brazil is increasing SMEs financing. Scanning and evaluating credit requests for SMEs is not only challenging and time consuming, it also requires multiple operations that could result in delays that actually inhibit the operation of the firms and their investments in innovative projects. Equally important, Perez 2009 postulated that Latin America managed to mobilize regions and territories as agents of change in their development experience. This should be a lesson to Africa in that the return of industrial policy in Latin America is characterized by a growing attention devoted to the territory, while in Africa, development interventions have been territory blind. Today, this option is not sustainable and not even desirable. In some countries in Latin America, including Chile, Colombia, and Peru, the willingness to channel resources from the mining sector towards innovation is helping to create a demand for strengthening institutions at the regional level. In Argentina and Brazil, the governments are increasingly concerned about promoting a more balanced development pattern and finding new sources of growth in provinces and states. Regions and cities can be powerful additional sources of growth and innovation on the one hand, and on the other hand, industrialization today needs to take into account its impact on urbanization and territorial management. Hence, the reason for African countries to draw these lessons from Latin America. One cannot ignore the way Latin America has planned for the incentives of the next paradigm, thus investing in green solutions. Brazil, for example, is investing in green technologies, building up on governance-led efforts started in the 1970s. Environmental sustainability is a priority also for small economies like Costa Rica and Panama, but it is still not high up in most countries in the region. In addition, most of the green transformation programs focus on the technological dimension, as in Brazil, while the green paradigm would require to address, in addition to the technological dimension, also the consumption side and the change in behaviors, service delivery, and urban planning. This is according to Cattell and Lambert 2010. These are all areas where African countries could make big steps in terms of development. In addition, for Africa to develop, there is need to draw a lesson of investing in strengthening state capabilities from Latin America. Brazil introduced innovation among the priorities of its National Development Bank, and it is promoting the creation of a new corporation to promote mission-oriented research. Chile created Ministerial Council for Innovation. Smaller economies have made progress too, like Costa Rica, has created a ministerial council to promote the coordination between FDI policy and innovation, and Uruguay has created National Agency for Innovation. The traditional argument says that countries should get the institutions right and only then get the policies right. But the reality shows that things work the other way around. Institutions co-evolve with the challenges they are called to face and with the policies that they administer and implement. Poor institutional capabilities are no excuse for calling for low state intervention. Investing in institutional strengthening is part of a proactive policy package. The experience in Latin American countries shows that targeted efforts to create a culture of evaluation for development to take place is needed. It will not develop spontaneously in most countries. Evaluation is more useful when it is conceived as an integral part of policy cycle and not an external function of control of check and balances. In African countries, external support is often essential to carry out policy evaluation. However, even in those cases, direct participation of local constituencies is still essential to ensure meaningful evaluation exercise. Some Latin American countries have introduced industrial and innovation surveys to monitor trends and assess policy impact. Improving the capacity to use the surveys is a mid-long-term process requiring permanent dialogue between experts, statisticians, and policymakers, but it is of paramount importance. In summation, therefore, the Latin American experience in industrial and development policies offers lessons that could help the policymaking and economic development in Africa if adapted to the specificities and varieties of its different countries.